Now, national defense is a big part of this budget. There's a promise to rebuild, to rearm, and to reinvest. And with that pledge comes more money, more than $70 billion over 5 years. That's in addition to $9 billion announced earlier this year. Let's talk about all these numbers with Canada's Minister of National Defence. That is David McGuinty. Minister, good to see you.
Good evening, Andrew.
We had heard $62.7 billion as the defense budget for this fiscal year going into this budget. How do the numbers in this budget change that number for this year and the spending number for your department for the new fiscal year that's going to be starting next spring?
Well, the first thing for viewers to remember is that we made the important decision some months ago to meet the 2% GDP target for NATO a full 5 years ahead of schedule. We're doing this by March 31st. That's why the Prime Minister announced an extra $9.3 billion of funding to do precisely as you indicated, to rearm and to, frankly, reinvigorate all of our Canadian Armed Forces, recruiting and retaining, etc. So we're making those investments as we go forward, and the women and the men of the Canadian Armed Forces deserve it.
Now, among this money, there is $18 billion over 5 years for equipment. The budget talks about additional logistics utility, light utility, armored vehicles, counter-drone capabilities. Can you be a bit more specific about what you're looking for in this category? What type of weaponry are we talking for Canadian Forces personnel?
Well, listen, we're looking at the full gamut of tools and equipment that are required. It's been a long time since we've actually taken a long, hard look at the stock and the inventory that we have. We have much machinery, both here and abroad in Latvia. We're looking to improve, to retrofit, to replace labs, LUVs, different kinds of armored vehicles, ambulance-type structures and ambulance-type vehicles, kit, weapons, rifles, ammunition. All of this is being reevaluated, David, forgive me, Andrew, as well as everything that's going on in our bases. We have 33 bases in this country. We have to retrofit their housing, water, wastewater, electric systems. We've let this fall a considerable distance, and this is a very important investment in our economy at the same time, because not only we are investing in our women and men of the forces, we're investing in all of the procurement that'll go alongside it to repair, retrofit, and rebuild.
Okay, now the budget does talk a lot about spending, but the budget also talks a lot about savings, as you know, right across the federal government. Now, national defense does not face as high a requirement to find savings as most other departments. You do need to find a 2% reduction. So where exactly are those savings going to come from?
Well, the savings involve efficiencies that we've explained in the budget. We're talking about making some transfers. Look, the basic premise here is we want to move some operational money into our investment bucket. We believe in investing, and as the Prime Minister's indicated, about $1 trillion in our economy going forward. We want to hyper-stimulate a couple of core sectors, and one of which is defense. We're going to create a lot of jobs. We've already got 600 companies in this country in this industry sector. Now we're launching a new defense industrial sector for the future. It's comprehensive. It's the first of its kind in Canadian history. We've talked to over 1,000 companies, 17 other countries to find out how did they do it, how are they doing it, what worked, what didn't work. And we'll have more to say about this when we announce the Defence Industrial Strategy. We've also taken another big step here, Andrew, and we've created a new procurement agency. And this procurement agency is going to specialize in buying anything over $100 million. This will really bring together the kinds of professionals that we need to make these important procurements for our system and the equipment we need.
All right, I do want to go back to NATO. You talked about that 2% target in your first answer. This budget says there is a path to Canada meeting NATO's expanded spending target. This is the 5% of GDP by the year 2035. Now, this budget lays out spending through 2030. That $82 billion odd dollars is just over the next 5 years. So by the time we get to 2030, where will we be by that point in terms of meeting that NATO commitment? Can we get a bit more specificity just on the numbers of where we're going to be over the next decade?
Pretty hard to predict where we're going to be in terms of GDP in 5 years, right? The economy is going to grow. We're going to work hard to grow it even bigger, grow that pie. And so obviously the numbers will be affected by that growth in the economy. Once again, that's why we're bearing down on the defense industrial sector to be able to give rise to more than 82,000 jobs we already have in this sector full-time and 200,000 part-time jobs. This is about creating wealth. This is about launching companies. It's about creating jobs. It's about doing so also in a very local way. Andrew, here's an example. I was at Trenton, one of our major Air Force bases, to see the retrofitting that has to take place, about $900 million, to prepare for the arrival of a new series of refueling planes that will refuel our fighter jets. That investment is going to create over 1,000 full-time jobs in the Trenton area for years. So we see this happening over and over and over again across the country, and we're just beginning. We're very encouraged, and Canadians should realize this is going to create a lot of wealth and a lot of jobs.
Okay, you're talking about the economic spin-offs, and so much of this budget overall is, of course, a response to economic uncertainty, the trade uncertainty, and the changing nature of our relationship with the United States. So I do want to ask, how you would assess the current state of our defense relationship with the U.S., given the fact that we do have this economic tension.
Our relationship is strong, but we have made a decision. The Prime Minister has been clear. We're going to be diversifying our relationships on the defense and military front. Just come back from Asia with the Prime Minister in Korea and the Philippines, where we signed 2 new deals, for example, 2 new agreements, which allow us again to participate on the procurement side. We have 30 companies in one country, 20 in the other, already doing business. Look, we're managing our relationship very well with the United States. We're obviously working to get an economic deal, but on the security, on the intelligence, and on the defense front, Andrew, we're very tight, we're very strong.
Okay, you mentioned your trip to Asia. You and the Prime Minister toured the Hanwha shipyard in South Korea as a potential supplier of new submarines. There's also a German firm in the running. So what is your time frame for that major decision on procurement?
Well, the first thing to know is that we've created a whole new procurement agency. We've professionalized it. We have a new CEO coming in from Toronto to help run it. The job will be to actually launch the procurement. We've gone from 5 to 2 potential suppliers. That in itself has accelerated the process by about 2 years. We're moving quickly, but we're moving with great discipline. We're moving objectively. We're going to be obviously negotiating as hard as we can to get as many industrial benefits, create as many jobs, looking at the long-term relationship with whatever company we choose, 30, 40 years. That means sustainment. In other words, it means servicing those submarines in Canada. That also has a knock-on effect, creates jobs, parts, a whole ecosystem. All of this is underway, and we'll take the time we need to get it right.
Okay, finally, I do want to ask you about another big procurement. That is the F-35 and the government's internal review. Now, initially, we were told to expect something on this by the end of summer. You told MPs recently that the review is ongoing. So when will Canadians know whether or not you're sticking with the plan to buy all F-35s?
What I can tell you is that the review is ongoing, and it's being taken very seriously. Things are being examined very, very carefully, very closely. And that's basically what we're letting happen. This is the important part of this process before we decide to make a final decision. And so we're going to take the time we need.
All right, Defence Minister David McGuinty, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Andrew.